Sippers, welcome to this episode of the Tea With Me podcast. I have absolutely zero idea what episode it is, but I'm going to start the podcast with this. I've done my neck. And that's great because, in the Tea With Me podcast series, I've maybe done, 22 episodes? That's a guess. But how many of them have started with me going, I've done my neck, I've done my back, I've done my hips. Why am I 85? I don't know, but I've done my neck. I slept funny on it, because I wasn't really on the pillow. You know what I mean? Like, the pillow was there, but I was lying at a weird angle, and I think I slept in between two pillows. And that's just not a good. It's not a good vibe, because you wake up, and here's the thing: it was deceptive. It was like a hangover. I woke up and I went, I'm 100%. I'm great. And then I got near the bathroom and went, ugh. You know when you make a noise, like the old man noise. What about the old man I've done my neck in noise? Ugh. And then your shoulders go all tense, and then, your wife's just trying to help you out. She's like, if you relax your shoulders, your neck won't be as sore. And you're like, I'm trying. That hurt when I did that, but I'm trying to relax my shoulders, but I can't because my neck's sore. And when I relax my shoulders, my neck gets even worse. I don't know, man. It's bad. It's bad, but I know it's going to be okay tomorrow. But today, I'm just not good because my neck's sore. And I had to reverse my car out of the driveway. And whenever I did, I went like this. Because I couldn't check my blind spot, and I just resigned myself to the fact that I might just get crashed into. I was like, oh no, I was such a little bitch. I just reversed out, and I was like, hopefully nobody hits me. But the upside would be, obviously you don't want to burn the NHS at the minute, and it's a apt episode to talk about that, as you'll discover. But it'd be a terrible burden, but at least in hospital they could sort out this neck. Although I think what it is I injured my neck at the gym. Don't know if you guys know this, but I lift light weights, and I hurt it, and I don't think my neck has properly recovered. And I think I might have an underlying issue with my neck, which is brilliant. That's really good because, your neck's not important apart from everything. So there you go. I've got that off my chest. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about loads of things today. I'm feeling hyped. I'm going to be honest. There's been a couple of these solo episodes of the podcast when, I don't know, I just feel a wee bit tired whenever I record, or I don't know. If I do feel good, but maybe I'm a bit lethargic. I feel absolutely hyped because I've just finished watching Normal People. I literally just finished the series Normal People, the BBC series Normal People, and that's enough times where I should say Normal People. Wow. Honestly, just to set the scene, there'll be no spoilers in this, by the way. If you haven't seen Normal People, it's a series based down in Sligo in Ireland, and it follows a guy and a girl, basically. It's like a love story in a way, and it's a drama, right? And there's young people in it, but everybody would enjoy it. I gotta say, my thoughts were two things. Number one, it's potentially the best acting and the best cast thing I've watched in a long time. What about when everyone's just perfect for the role? Like something with The Sopranos or The Wire. You watch that and you go, nobody else could have played these roles. The In-Betweeners is a bit like that in a way, where they're obviously different kinds of series, but you watch it and you're like, yes, no one else could be these people. With Normal People, I wanted to get their names up because I don't want to be disrespectful and be like, your mom, and what do you call her? Daisy Edgar-Jones and Paul Mescal. Honestly, by the way, as a series, I think it's 12 episodes, 12 half-hour episodes. If you're in between watching a couple of things, if you've done Tiger King and all the things we've all watched, watch Normal People if you haven't watched it yet. I also, as someone who does like a little bit of acting, obviously I'm more of a stand-up, but I've done a bit of acting and I want to do more of it. It's made me go, oh, I want to be an actor. I want to do way more acting than I'm doing and push that a bit more, because I don't know, I just imagine myself as one of those actors watching this program on screen going, what a masterpiece. And I'm not saying they think that, but just something to, oh my god, be so proud of. That guy, like Daisy Edgar-Jones, is 10 out of 10 brilliant in it, but Paul Mescal, maybe it's just being a fella, and and I don't know, I can understand that it'd be a difficult role to play in a way. He just, oh my God, just unreal. Like, the way it's filmed is incredible. The dialogue is brilliant. There's a couple of funny moments. The character, by the way, how about the character Jamie, who's played by Finn O'Shea, who's just like a little bit of a prick. And what about the scene? Again, I'm not going to go on about this too much, that if you haven't seen it, you won't get it. But there's a scene where her boyfriend, Jamie, demands that she bring the cream out for some strawberries when they're in Italy. And it was at that moment when he did that, and everyone's like, oh, fuck, just leave it. Why are you being a prick? It was at that point I realised, hey, that's my spirit animal. You know, I like him. The guy who plays her, like, the characters you hate in it, you really hate, like her brother in it as well. Unbelievable acting. Like his mum, who's played by Sarah Green. Oh man, Normal People. It has a score of 8.8 out of 10 on IMDb. I don't know how that's possible. It is fucking brilliant. Really, really, really brilliant. And there's an article, one of the actors saying the cast were stunned by the BBC drama's success. Yeah, of course. It feels like one of those things that almost could have gone under the radar, but has just had so much support from people talking about it that it's become this, you have to watch this kind of thing. And you really do. Normally I don't like stuff like that. I think before I watch it, I judge it, and I'm like, if everyone's watching it, it must be shit. You know, that kind of thing. But oh my God, Normal People. I'm going to work really hard to get someone from the cast onto the podcast in the next couple of weeks, because I'd love to talk about that. I'm really interested in, whenever something like that just blows up, I'm interested in hearing what that's like for an actor. You know, because I think we can imagine what it'd be like to all of a sudden just be part of this amazing thing. And there's a guy called Desmond Eastwood, who plays potentially the most lovable character in it, and he's from Lisburn, so maybe he'd be up for that. He's also been in Krypton, which is a side note. I just see that in his profile. Krypton is the thing I auditioned for. It was a sci-fi series set in Belfast, and I auditioned for it, I think it was 12 or 13 times, so that's cool. That is really cool. But yeah, Normal People. I'm going to try and get somebody on. I'm going to get somebody on from the cast, and hopefully we'll do an episode. We'll see what happens. I've got loads I want to get through, and in this episode, I was to preface this. I don't know if preface is a word. And by the way, there's somebody who signed up to the Patreon that is being a little tout. And if you know this guy, you'll expect this behaviour from him. Okay, he's a slippery little otter. He's called Matthew Mernon, and what he does is, whenever I make a mistake on the podcast, he sends it to one of my friends, either Aaron Butler or Dave Elliott, and like points and laughs. Like whenever I was talking about the Michael Jordan basketball series on a Patreon episode, and I called it Save the Last Dance. Easily done. It's called The Last Dance, and there is a film called Save the Last Dance. But he was straight on to my cohorts. Look at this mistake he made. Matthew, no one has made a bigger mistake than you when you came to picking your car. And you know what I'm talking about, and I know what you're talking about. So let's move on. Also, let me plug the Patreon before I move on. Patreon.com/teawithmepodcast, where we put out the bonus episodes every Monday. Every single Monday, a feature-length bonus episode with me and producer Dan goes up, and you support the podcast. And everyone who has signed up for the Patreon so far, absolutely love that. Thank you so much. It really does make a big difference at this fairly shitty time with no gigs or work, basically. So what I was going to do a couple of weeks ago is like a coronavirus episode, and it was 50-50 about doing it. It was like, do we interview some doctors and nurses or people that have had it, and or do people not want to hear that? So I was sort of halfway through doing it, and I did a great interview, which you're going to hear on this episode, with two friends of mine that are doctors, Niall and Niall, who play together in a musical duo called the 9 Inch Niles. When I did my first Ulster Hall show, I got them to play in the venue just before everybody went in their class, and two of the nicest guys you could meet. They gave up a bit of their time. I had a chat about it, so I thought what's better to do is drop that interview into the middle of this podcast, just to hear what it's like from two doctors like my age, or maybe the guy's slightly younger than me. just to know what it's like at the minute, because we hear about all the frontline staff and we see social media posts and stuff, but I wanted to find out actually what is the reality of it and how are they getting on, and it was massively insightful. And we have all this clapping for NHS staff and so much love for them, but and I see all that, but like to actually hear what it is they're going in to do and what they prepare themselves for, if I didn't think it was possible, but it just puts them another rung higher on the ladder for me. And I think it was a real interesting interview that I think you'll enjoy. So I'm going to interview the two Niles later in this episode. And I said dip episode, and Matthew Myrna will probably fucking send that on, the little piece of shit. Straight up tea, players. Straight up tea. For anybody inquiring, do I have sugar in my tea? I used to. And then I had sweetener, and now I just have nothing. And I'm just bareback when it comes to the old tea. Yeah, there's some things I want to talk about before I play that interview. I've got the old laptop here. I said that like nobody really has laptops anymore. I've got the old laptop in case you haven't heard of one of those. What I want to do is, first of all, I used to do this feature on my podcast when it used to be called the Shane Toddcast, great title, called TripAdvisor, where I just like looked at TripAdvisor reviews of places that I was going to be going to do stand-up in just to see what it was like. And obviously we find the worst TripAdvisor reviews and just talk about that. So I don't know what we're going to do this week, but I've got a load of options. I thought we would look at like Belfast sightseeing things. We'll pick a big company with loads of reviews, and then we'll just like go through the worst reviews and have a good laugh at that. So, okay, there's a Belfast black taxi tour. By the way, for anyone like not from here that's being like, yeah, that's fucking really out of order, that you would class your taxi drivers by the colour of their skin. It's the colour of their taxi. Alright, so yeah, black taxi is like a taxi you can get in Belfast with several other people. These guys were doing Uber rideshare in the 60s, This guy runs one of the companies. I'll not give out the name of his business because he might be like, yeah, mate, that's really sly. And he's got loads and loads of reviews. So why don't we just go through some of those? So I'm presuming we're going to be hearing from tourists here that have done the black taxi tour. And I just want to find out. I just want to see ones that weren't happy. Oh, and also the guys responded to a few. This will be brilliant. Even before we do it, I know this is going to be good. Someone called Becca from London gets in touch and says, bottom line, the driver was rude and disrespectful. Wikipedia was more interesting. He tried to overcharge us and yelled at me from his window after we paid the agreed rate. I wish I'd chosen a different company. This experience ruined my visit to Belfast. Here's the thing, yes, that's not good, but that is an authentic visit to Belfast. If you want to really come and experience a real culture, someone will yell at you. You know what I mean? But that could, do you know what? He probably yelled something nice, because that's the way people do it here. She probably got out and he's like, enjoy your fucking night, dickhead. And she's like, why is he being so violent to me? People were like, no, he obviously likes you if he called you dickhead. Yeah, she's gone into like a massive thing. Paid the driver £40 to waste 2 hours of my day and insult me. This is not the Belfast experience I was looking for. Hey, it's Belfast though. It is the real Belfast experience. The guy's got back, right? And he goes, Becca, delighted to hear from you on this platform. I mean, he isn't. He probably isn't. Here we go. I love a bit of sass when someone fires back. Since we received your email, we've actually been investigating the incident and have also spoken to witnesses who were able to verify some issues involved. To begin with, when we began our conversation with the driver, the very first thing he said was there was a very clear atmosphere from the minute she got into the cab. Now, this driver is one of the more joking drivers we have and is always very bouncy and welcoming to our guests. So that's this guy. Whoever owns this company, it's their way of going, look, the driver's a fucking rocket. Okay, so that's just the way he is. I think they might be the problem. When he introduced himself, he asked your partner, stroke boyfriend, stroke friend, his name and began bantering with him when he went to speak to you and ask your name. There was a clear standoff. He said this was very apparent to him. I mean, what's happened there is when he introduced himself, he asked your partner his name. He's probably gone, Aye, what's your fucking, you riding him, are you? What do you fucking, what do you call your name? You know, I think this guy might be the problem, but let's see what happens here. He likes to think passengers have a certain sense of friendship and camaraderie with him. That basically means he wants to rip the bag out of you, but he's going to say, like, it's alright, we're mates. I mean, there's a thinly veiled threat here. As the trip progressed, the driver was not reading from a script because he's a man who's grown up through the Troubles. I mean, that's letting you know that he knows guys that are bad boys. You know what I mean? It's rather insulting to you to try and demean his story. I mean, this guy's response, or this person's response, is maybe 5,000 words. And look at the way they finish with it. We're trying to make this one of the top 10 visited cities in Europe in Belfast, and we're flourishing, as you can see by our 5,000 reviews. Yeah, I like it when the author hits back. I like it when the business owner hits back, for sure. Someone else says, "Shame on you. Your company is a joke." Oh no, I want to find it when he hits back. Or let's okay, an American guy's taking the black taxi tour. So basically the guy just didn't show up. Oh right, okay, so someone didn't show up. We've got someone else. I mean, here's one of the misleading things. Black taxis in Belfast are blue, obviously. Someone writes to that note, "Done this tour recently with the name of this company. You would think at least you would get an old style London black cab, not a blue minibus." I like the idea that the driver's like, "It's private, it's for you," and then on the way down he picks him up in a minibus. He's like, "Fucking jump in, I'm just leaving these ones I'm leaving these ones down the Castle Court, fucking move over." "Sir, this is a car for 8 people. And what's your fucking problem?" "Well, there's 68 people in here, sir." "Aye, but 6 of them kids, fuck up." I didn't see the relevance of soldiers X, Y, and Z. Also, I think our guy did have his dates wrong when he was referring to the black and tans in Ireland. Sounds like this person's like trying to catch him out. It's essential to get dates right. I mean, let's... Some people are like, "Oh, the guy just lied to us about all the facts." Oh, that's funny. Are they famous for not... Okay, staff rude. Someone from Marbella says, "Read reviews for this and was wary as a lot of people said the company didn't show up." This happened to us. No one got... Yeah, it seems like a lot of the time the people aren't picked up. He's an elusive man. Everything booked, no one showed up. Disappointed. Someone goes, "Try value, cops." Never showed. Yeah, okay. Look, a lot of these are people being like, he just didn't show up. I think what we want is like someone who... Oh, there's also someone who's meant to give a great review here but left a 1-star one, but it should be like way better. Yeah, I wanted something like really personal. Okay. This person's from Toronto, Canada. "As it turns out, it's incredibly difficult to see things from inside a cab, and because the murals on our tour are so close together, I don't see why this wasn't done as a walking tour, because you're constantly getting in and out of the cab. We're driving distances of a couple of 100 metres at most." Our driver was uninformative and occasionally outright terrible at guiding, going off on a tangent about the internment trials and tribute... No. These people from Canada wanted to know about the Troubles, right? And I thought, and it said internal, and I thought it said internment, and I was like, why the fuck would they be giving off? They're getting to hear about internment. It's way better than that. Our driver was... This is Evan from Canada. "Our driver was fantastically uninformative and occasionally outright terrible at guiding, going off on an impromptu tangent about Fleetwood Mac in the 70s for about 5 minutes while we sat in front of a peace wall. He didn't seem to know or care about anything we saw. He just kept talking about Fleetwood Mac. These people, these people want to hear about the murals. They want to hear about Belfast. And there's just a big fat guy driving the taxi being like, Dreams is a fucking pelter though, isn't it? Oh, that's so. I mean, just the image of that is just. It's just so enjoyable. Oh my god! And can you tell me more about Bobby Sands? Oh, I can tell you. So everywhere is a fucking. That's a fucking tune. Ask me anything about Fleetwood Mac. Well, I was hoping you could tell us something about the murals. Fleetwood Mac, dickhead, start talking. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, but I really, really, really enjoyed that. I real. Someone from Adelaide in Australia said, "Book this tour today, especially to experience a black cab ride around Belfast and learn more about the troubles in Ireland." I was extremely disappointed when a disabled taxi came to pick us up. Don't be fucking discriminatory, alright? In a sly, just a taxi coming around with fucking crutches. I may as well have organised the driver myself, so we got the whole experience. No disrespect to the driver, he was a nice guy. A disabled taxi. Be nice to him, he's a disabled taxi. Oh my god. I can't stop laughing about the Fleetwood Mac guy. Yeah. Someone got taken to a building, but it was closed. I mean, that's just Belfast, though, isn't it? Oh, sorry. What here? Do you know what? Do you know what I'll actually do? It's difficult for me to pick the best reviews out. So why don't next week I properly research this? I'll properly do it too. I'll properly and properly do it. But this is going to be a new thing. Every week on the podcast, we're just going to go through the worst TripAdvisor reviews for things in Northern Ireland. Oh my god, that's made me laugh so much. That's made me laugh so much. What we're going to do... What about Jerry Adams? What about Fleetwood Mac? Fucking hell. Oh my god. Oh my god. And I bet you that guy's surname is like McKee or something. And his nickname is, of course, Billy Fleetwood Mac Key. For sure it is. For sure it is. What we're going to do is, I'm going to play the interview with the two Niles, with two doctors living and working in Belfast at the minute, dealing with the whole coronavirus thing. It's more to try and get the human side of it. We're hearing about all these facts and figures, but I want to speak to the guys about their real experiences. I'm going to play that now, and then at the end of the podcast, I'm going to take listeners' questions. Let's get to the interview. This is with two Niles who are currently doctors in Belfast. Hope you enjoy it. Guys, can you start with... I'm going to call you Glasses, Niall, which is very, very disrespectful, but I'll maybe not give your surname. Can you tell me what you do, like what your exact job is, and maybe just a quick sentence actually about why you got into this, or what made you pursue this profession?
I don't know. Either of us have particularly good reasons for that. Like,
yeah.
To be honest.
So me, I work in the Royal. Well, we're supposed to both work in the Royal, and at the minute, for the last couple of years, I work in the field of neurosurgery. So, anything to do with brain and the spine, that sort of stuff. And yeah, as Niall alluded to, our reasons. This is going to sound really stupid. I wanted to do law until I started watching Scrubs in upper sixth, and then I was like, that looks like a lot of fun. And then did some work experience and enjoyed it. But that's probably a terrible reason. But and also because I wasn't allowed to be a musician.
Look, if you offered me 50 guesses, because I watched Scrubs, would not be in my top 50.
It'd be 51.
And non-glasses, Niall.
So I'm an F2, so I graduated nearly 2 years ago now. and I'm in cardiology in the Royal. So you sort of do different placements over the first few years. Cardiology was meant to be my second of 3 this year, but with everything that's going on, with just everyone stayed in their placements. So where you would have been there for 4 months, we're now there for 8 months.
Have your jobs changed because of coronavirus? Like I've noticed, like a lot of consultants and stuff having to go into COVID centers and that kind of thing. So what's been the impact on both your jobs?
Big time. I think it's just for us, like we were lucky anyway. We stayed in the same place, so you didn't have to go somewhere new and get used to a new environment down to NE or ICU or any of that. But just everything you do is different. You're just constantly aware of it, wary of it. You know, you don't go and see people the way you would have, you know, like 2 months ago. Like, you know, you don't examine people until, you know, unless you have to. You don't, you don't get as close to people. Everyone's wearing masks everywhere. It's just entirely changed the way you go about your job without changing, you know, the actual job you're doing. If you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I think certainly around the time that this started, I suppose just over a month ago, we were, I don't know what it was like for you now, but we had a lot of extra training sessions in anticipation of us being redeployed to ICU and different places, because the doctors that are going to be most effective, you know, in treating the really sick people who have coronavirus are the ICU doctors and the anaesthetists, and so the aim was to train us up to a level to kind of cover some of their work so that they could go then to the COVID centres and look after these patients. So it's strange. It kind of like, certainly around the start of it, like, again, I don't know about you now, but I was absolutely terrified. Like, I actually, in a weird way, like, I actually felt like we were like preparing to go to war, because like you hear all these terms like redeployment and, you know, things that, you know, that's not a word that's bandied about in medicine very often. So yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I suppose it's probably a good thing for me and Al to kind of maybe get across if we can. I mean, to break it down really kind of in a simplistic way, that probably the thing that gets referred to Niall the most would be people with chest pain, and the thing that would get referred to me most would be people who have headaches for whatever reason. And one thing we're noticing, a lot of the, especially in surgical specialties, a lot of the day-to-day stuff like the outpatient clinics and the theatre lists have all been cancelled, obviously, to kind of try and deal with everything else that's going on. And so a lot of the things that would make up the day-to-day work have stopped, and maybe things are a little bit less busy. But what we're noticing is that I think you've chatting to now, you've had a similar experience. A lot of the people that may or should maybe be coming to NE with other health problems maybe aren't coming as early as they should. And so we're noticing a lot of people that are ending up coming in and getting referred to each of our specialties. They're coming in actually a lot more sick than they would have if they'd come in. And I think that comes from people being a little bit fearful of coming up to NEs, you know.
I think people, yeah, it's a weird thing where, like, I guess hospitals are going to be in a way extremely safe environments because you have so many regulations you need to abide by. I get an infusion for having Crohn's disease every about 3 months, and I'm due to go next week to get it. And it's weird because I hadn't thought about it up until they phoned me to basically say, "Oh, we're in a different building." And I hadn't got like nervous about it until she said that. And I said, I don't know why I asked this, but I said to the woman on the phone, I was like, "Here, do I need to wear like a face mask?" And she said, "Do you have a face mask?" And I said,
Gucci.
"Oh." Yeah, I've had my own Louis Vuitton one commissioned for $7,000. No, I said, "Do I have to wear a mask?" She said, "Do you have a mask?" And I was like, "Oh no." And she was basically like, "So I asked me if you need to wear a mask." She said, "We can give you a mask when you get here." And I don't know. I feel like I would like a mask. I feel like I've always been very dismissive of people who wear masks, especially like, you know, when you're on the tube in London and you see people wearing a mask and you're like, "Oh, for God's sake, that's overkill." Now I feel like permanently I'm going to be wearing a mask for a while. But is the sort of advice on that changing in terms of wearing face masks?
Don't know in public, like, but in the hospital, it's, you know, everyone has to wear it sort of constantly, like, unless you're going for a coffee or lunch or whatever, like, everyone's wearing masks. And that's the other thing, is like the hospital's such a different place because there's no visiting allowed, apart from very special circumstances. So like the odd family member and stuff you see about, like, are getting masks and that sort of thing.
Michael Jackson
But
was Jacko was
He's
decades ahead
all
of the
over it.
curve.
Yeah,
but it's you kind of
all
it's
coming.
like the part about that obviously like there's a good reason to do it, but you kind of I think when we were walking around, obviously we're aware of the facial expressions that we're recruiting, but you kind of
Yeah,
realize that patients all they're seeing is probably just about your eyes. So I'm
yeah,
like I was I smiled at a patient. Um, she had no idea that I was smiling. She just thought I was staring at her, and you can kind of see people are like,
Yeah.
no idea, like,
yeah.
The good thing though is now now
it's
you have beautiful eyes.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
feel like that's going to help that. But I mean, it's interesting you say about the fact that when you heard all these terms about redeployment and that kind of thing, that you guys were nervous, because I think in a very ignorant way, when I hear about COVID centers, when I hear about hospitals, there's always this weird assumption that doctors and nurses are going to be okay. It's almost like I think, you guys can't get sick, because
I
you're doctors, yet you guys are the ones that are there all the time. And I think this is really uh, probably helping. That will a lasting legacy of this is people like me will think way more about that. I've always been like a fan of the NHS. I've benefited from the NHS from whenever I've been sick before, but I think now the fact that you're talking about redeployment makes you sound like soldiers. I think people
mm,
are thinking of doctors and nurses like that. Using the term frontline isn't like a flippant thing. It really is. And I guess I want to ask, whenever you got into this profession, were you ever told, not specifically this, but something like this could happen? Were you ever told, if there is a pandemic or something like this, that look, you're going to be asked to really throw yourselves into it, or
mm,
is that just part of is that just an assumption in the job?
Mm, I don't know. There's definitely no specific time that I ever think of that something like this would come along. Even a few months ago when you were sort of hearing about it for the first time, I was like, oh, it'd probably blow over just like everyone else. And it's only really the past 2 months that I've probably ever thought of, ourselves as being on the front line, or like whatever that really means. And this sort of thing. So I don't know. I'd never thought about it, to be honest.
yeah,
Past few months.
me
What
me
do you think
me,
now?
me neither. Yeah, no, yeah, like whenever we were kind of like I say about a month ago, when we were getting all this extra training and kind of trying to get used to things that because obviously you know like it's always people in the news and different things, they just really talk about broadly about doctors and nurses and medical and healthcare staff and all of the
Yeah.
people that are involved, but obviously within medicine, within nursing, within healthcare in general, like you know you're kind of a lot of us work in kind of niche specialties, and a lot of the things that um you can do to kind of help the patients, or the things that they require to kind of get them through the worst part of the illness, like in the specialties that me and Niall work in, we're not exposed to that on a daily basis. A lot of the machines that are very like the ventilators, like we got some training to kind of try and figure out how these things work. But that was my first experience, and I've been qualified since 2014 of seeing that stuff. So, but so as I say, it was terrifying, and I suppose in answer to your question, no, I never thought about it, but you kind of had to just think. And thankfully, at this stage, neither me or Niall have had to go to those areas yet. But you kind of just have to, at the end of the day, how can you not go and do it? How can you say no? Like how can you not, like at the end of the day, as cliched and cheesy as it sounds, like you're trained to do certain things, and
Yeah.
you have a responsibility to step up if you're asked to. So
What has there been a big change in your like living circumstances and things like that? Have you had to isolate from family or partners or anything?
Not for me, luckily. I'm at home at the minute, and the younger brother works up in Antrim Hospital as well. So we're just chilling in the house when we're out of hours as well. Niall's had a bit of a change in circumstances.
I mean, I was from it started. I was pretty much cutting myself off from the family in the house. I was kind of between houses, so I was living at home with my parents for first time in 10 or 11 years. I was on a short term basis when this all stopped and started. Sorry, and then the house that I was meant to be moving into, or that all kind of fell through, obviously. So I wasn't planning on moving out, but then I actually had to isolate and get testing and getting the swabbing and stuff. And then I realized, although I was fine, immediately whenever I was sent home from work because of issues getting testing and things at that stage, my whole family essentially then had to isolate for 2 weeks, and my brother had to cancel 2 weeks work, and that kind of highlighted to me that I probably needed to get out of the house. So I have left. I have moved out, and kind of just by myself at the minute.
Is it a case of you're so busy, you're doing so much, it's overwhelming, or do you have moments during all this where you can really think about it, if that makes sense? I mean, from an outside in point of view, I feel like doctors and nurses and stuff are just so flat out at the minute that you almost don't have time to come up for air. What sort of shifts are you working at?
No, I don't think it's a case of being flat out at all, to be honest. I think, in fact, a few weeks ago, actually, you were because people stopped maybe coming in, nobody wanted to come into the hospital. Actually, there was a lot of time just sitting around, sort of thinking about it, chatting about it, going to meetings about it, which was good in terms of you could get a bit more time to get training, get used to PPE and all that. But it was maybe a bad thing in other ways where you were sitting thinking about it, all the time, chatting about it. Anxiety levels sort of building up a wee bit. It's a wee bit different now, but
I think sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the waiting around, like the waiting for it, for me was the worst part. It got to a stage where I was like, I just wanted it to come. I was like, let's get on with it. Let's get stuck in. Let's try and get through it. But it was those couple of weeks where we were all kind of sitting, because you hear in the news a lot of stuff that we are told about or find out about. It's the same stuff that everyone else in the country is reading in the news. And so we kept hearing that we were like 2 weeks behind London or whatever, and so we were just constantly waiting for this thing to hit, and that, for me, that was the worst part.
Yeah, like the calm before the storm kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And you didn't know where the hell the storm was or when it was coming.
As a profession, is it a profession that if you did, you're talking about anxiety, and of course with what you're going through, that's something a lot of people are going to experience. Is it something that you can have proper chats with your colleagues about? Can you sort of speak to people you work with, and is it like a shared thing of, look, how do you feel about this? Is it like open in terms of that sort of thing?
I think in cardiology, we've been really well supported by all our seniors, and with a good team of colleagues and all that. And like most of the time, the best, if you're feeling like that, it's just a bit of crack, and everyone's up for sort of chatting and stuff. But I don't know, thankfully, because we're over in the Royal, we're not around it 24/7. So
yeah,
I don't know whether that would be different if you were constantly in that, if you're in the matter of that and you're surrounded by it constantly. And so I don't know.
I think
be a bit different.
Certainly chatting. So I suppose I got a lot of the people that work with and the colleagues and friends and work, and then obviously you've got a lot of your mates that you lived with and studied with, and you kind of chatting to different people who work around the place. And at least in work, I think the general feeling was, I think there was nearly an acceptance that all of us were probably going to just get it at some stage. And you just kind of accepted that there was no way to avoid it, and it was going to happen. It was more a case of when you got sick as opposed to if, and that was quite scary. But I think everyone with them mentally was in the same boat. But certainly, although, like I said, me and Al haven't had to be redeployed yet, and it seems like from the things they're saying in the news that this first peak might have passed, but there will be a second and maybe a third wave of this, and so if we don't get redeployed this time around, we might the next time. And certainly the trust, at least people who work in the Belfast Trust, they have done extra training, they have done, and everyone who has been redeployed that I know, like the systems and everything are in place. You get proper inductions, you get you work a set amount of shifts, you get a set amount of breaks. The systems are in place to ensure that physically and mentally, people are well supported through the process.
Yeah, well, that's great. I guess that's what I was asking: are things in place where those natural worries that you're going to have are helped and stuff? And that's good to know. I want to ask you. I don't want to keep you for too long, but I want to ask you about the extent of everything. So I was mentioning to you, Niall, earlier that I'm not watching much news at all at the minute, and that's different to when this all first came out. I was addicted to like the 24-hour news channels. Since then, I've kind of taken an attitude of, and I guess me having the luxury of being at home all day, I can do that. Where look, I watch a bit of like Good Morning Britain in the morning for half an hour, and that's kind of it. And I'm more sort of thinking about okay, I'll check the news once a day and have a look. How are we doing? Because you hear different things. You hear people saying, "Oh, Northern Ireland, everything's great," and you'll hear people say the opposite. You see on social media people flaunting lockdown, and this is a big thing at the minute. Of look at these people doing that, and then there's also articles up that we're doing great in terms of lockdown. So, from your point of view, in your profession, how are we sort of handling this as a public?
Look, I think generally, anyway, I don't know. It's hard to gauge that, like from in the hospital. But I think the main thing is the change from now to a few weeks ago, as we've sort of progressed through it, is everyone's a lot more positive. And hopefully that sort of speaks to the extent of how we're doing. But certainly, staffing wise, morale's very good about it. And I think a lot of the anxiety's lifted, and I think that's just testament to the vast majority of people sort of taking things seriously and staying at home and helping us out from that point of view. Like,
yeah, I mean, like I say, a lot of the numbers and the figures that we would be aware of are the same as that everyone would know, because it's Robin Swan and different people. Like, there's press conferences every day updating us all, and I think the initial modelling, like a couple of weeks or a month ago, the predicted deaths was 14,000. He's come out 2 days ago and said we're now down to 1,500 expected deaths in the surge. And it's strange. I think we can become a little bit numb to it, because you see Italy, Spain, and even the UK now, they're hitting the guts of 1,000 people a day, and it's really hard to comprehend. Like that, like you kind of just just looking at it as a number, but that's so many people. And I think we look here, and our figures seem to be somewhere between 5 and 20 a day, roughly, and that's still 20 people. That's still a lot. And if we're currently sitting in around 250 deaths, and our expected is 1,500, that's still a lot of people that could lose their life. So, I would say that certainly at no stage has it seemed like the situation here has been at the point of overwhelming or causing the hospitals here to break down. Certainly the social distancing here seems to have had a really good effect, and I say that not to relax people, but to encourage people to keep doing it, because it would be great if we went from 1,500 and brought that number of expected people down as much as possible, because there's no cure. The whole aim of the social distancing is to keep the number of very sick people at a level where we can treat them appropriately. And that's the aim of all of it. And so if we keep doing that and we keep sticking to it, I'd much rather be in lockdown for longer and try and keep our numbers as low, as head melting as it is.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important what you say about, like, we're doing well with the social distancing, but let's just keep doing well with it, because the temptation is like, oh, we're doing well, let's have a street party and let's play a public game of Twister. I think like you say, like, if we're doing well at it, let's just keep doing it, because it is difficult when the weather's good to not just oh, look, if I'm a bit lax about this or whatever. But I think people are being good, and it's surprising because, look, let's face it, guys, we live in Northern Ireland. There's a lot of haters about it. But even these guys, like, there's people who want to get out there and do things. Even, like, I'll be honest, when they cancelled the 12th, I was like, fair play to you lads, because they love it. They absolutely love it. But even they're like, you know what? We're just going to chill and do it bigger next year. But I just want to say here, I really appreciate your time. And I just want to say, like, my final question is, do you feel that love from the public for your profession right now? Is it something like you chat about, and I know that people are doing like the applause on the doorstep and all that kind of thing, and just generally like praising the NHS. Like, is that something that you feel? Sippers, let me very quickly interrupt the interview to point you in the direction of our Patreon. Patreon.com/teawithmepodcast, where we put up bonus episodes every Monday, and we have some like giveaways and stuff like that. There's merch news, gig news, all that kind of stuff. There's loads of people already on there really helping us out with the podcast. If you can also do that, that would be great. Patreon.com/teawithmepodcast. Back to the interview with the two Niles.
I think the general sentiment around where I am anyways, a lot of people are sort of quite taken aback by it. There's almost a sort of like Northern Irish sense of like a wee bit embarrassed about it, like, don't want to take it too much of that, like. But definitely more now than ever before, obviously.
It's, I mean, obviously you get some people, like a colleague of work, tries to, whenever it comes around to the 8 o'clock Thursday club, he tries to time it just right. He's pulling into his drive, goes for the
stethoscope out,
trying to get a bookmobile just to do it.
Scrub's still on, and he's a porter, stethoscope. Oh,
but it's but clearly I think clearly the people at the top, the people making the big decisions and the trusts and things, although they might not be and me and Niall can't profess to be frontline as such. We're not working in any ICU at the minute. But the people that are in the offices making the big decisions, they clearly, they're not completely out of touch of what it's like on the ground. And even simple things like, they're providing meals, free meals to all staff, everyone in the hospital, and just little things like that to kind of, it kind of obviously makes the day to day, just a little bit easier. But yeah, it's great. And like you see fireworks and different things going off. It's the first thing in a long time that seems to be, everyone is on the same side against this thing, as you say, except for the few headers you're, wanting a street party.
And they'll get it, but it just won't be for a while.
And hopefully, if anyone who is having a street party, 9 Inch Nails, you can book us whenever this thing's all over.
Yes. Is that? Are you missing performing? Like, are you still picking up the violin, like in your spare time, in your days off? You still able to just play in the house?
Violin's a weird instrument. It's you usually require someone else to play along, otherwise you're just a weird guy playing the tune by yourself. I suppose it's different for now with the guitar. It might be a bit easier, but in the last 2 days I've really missed it. Like I really can't, and I feel so much for all our friends who are full-time musicians and anyone who's self-employed, like yourself in the creative industry. It just must be so difficult, because all of their gigs and all of their livelihood has kind of just been taken away from them,
I mean,
that's the funny thing as well for us is, like, okay, you're going into work and there's coronavirus and all that, but like, we have a sense of normality quite a bit, that a lot of other people don't have, and you're maybe, you have a couple of days off, like even by the end of that, I'm getting cabin fever in the house. So like, I don't know how everyone else is feeling it.
I was driving into work yesterday, like, giving off to myself, but like, why am I going into work when it's so nice outside? As if it was like a normal day. And if it was at home, I'd still be sitting inside anyway. Like, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny though. Whenever like I'm listening to you guys talk about the fact that you accept it at a point that you're going to get sick and you just got to continue your job. And for a second there, you just were like, I mean, we just respect people in creative industries, freelancers, and I'm sitting here like, cheers. I'm like, look,
I am like, and again, not to sound cheesy or ridiculous, and like, I'm a proud patron of the Boytown podcast, Tea With Me, and the Sly Guy podcast, and it's things like that, like because like you say, whenever you get out of work, like Niall says, work's the easy part, because you're kind of it just does a lot of the time feel like a normal day to day whenever you get out of work.
I'm also not. You're like, work's the easy part. Has never been a doctor, and I'm like, yeah. You just get the shift done, do the rounds. That's why.
You know what I mean? Like you get out, but you get out of it, and you're kind of like sitting down by yourself. It's like, no, it's obviously not comparing like this, but like when you do a good gig or whatever, and you're like, oh, this is great, and then you go sit down, you're like, what do I do with my hands now, sort of thing. When there's lots of people, musicians and comedians, different thing, putting out podcasts and things, it's actually it's a big help.
Well, honestly, I mean, I always had respect for doctors, loads of doctors in my family, but since the start of all this and just hearing you talk there about, I don't know, it's the fact that this doesn't feel, you're talking about like you're just about to move into your house. I know about moving into my first house, how amazing it was, and you've had to like stop that and move into this temporary accommodation, being away from your family. You sort of say it like it's not that it's nothing, but you just feel like you've got a responsibility, that goes with the job, and that is that's so admirable. So I really appreciate what you guys do. I think everybody does, and I feel like after this, I feel like there will be quite a few stand-up gigs for NHS stuff happening, and I'm aware that that will not be an incentive for a lot of NHS staff. No, mate, you're all right, but yeah, I think people like me are desperate to just get gigs going again for the likes of health workers, all that kind of stuff, and I feel like a lot of people will be wanting to pat people like yourselves on the back after this. So, cheers, guys! Thanks very much for taking the time to chat to me. I look forward. I feel like let's just, when this is over, the violin, the guitar, the voice, which is what I call myself. Let's just perform. Let's just get creative again.
A few Pet Shop Boys numbers. I think that would be.
Did something? I'm not joking. European tour. Let's honestly. I don't know if there. I'm sure there is a Pet Shop Boys impersonator. I bet you he's like a bit shit. He's probably just like a good singer, but he can't really do the Pet Shop Boys. This guy's bringing both. You guys back me up. We go on
100%.
tour.
Perfect.
This is going to be beautiful. Niles, thank you very much for chatting to me. I'll post a link in the descriptions for some 9-inch Niles videos because people will very much enjoy that. And yeah, I really enjoyed chatting to you guys. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Shane. Thanks.
Sippers, there we have it. The interview with the two Niles, two absolutely cracking guys, talking on just a really human level about what it's like to work on the front line during this coronavirus crisis at the minute. Now, that interview was recorded a couple of weeks ago, so some of the stuff we were talking about there things might have changed now, but I hope the gist of it is still relevant for people, and I hope you find that enjoying. Cheers to the guys for giving up their what is at the minute very precious time to do that. As I said, we talked about doing like a proper coronavirus episode, but I don't know, I think some people just kind of don't want to hear about it at the minute. I don't mean it in an irresponsible way, but I think some people are like, listen, I'm seeing so much in the news, they just kind of want to listen to podcasts, and especially with fucking idiots like me, for a bit of a release. But the guys were great, and again, thanks for doing that. We've got to do listeners' questions. Let me take a big sip at hay. Very sexy. I'd probably put that cup of tea at about a 7.8. I enjoyed it. We got questions. Johnny Bow is jumping in. Johnny Bow is a stand-up as well as being a lovely guy. And he says he's a Patreon too, so he's just extra sexy. What is the worst character you've ever created? Ones that didn't make the cut? Yeah, so online characters and sketches. There has been characters I've done that either didn't hit the mark or I just didn't think were funny. I don't know if there's anything I've ever shot with a character that I haven't released. I would say in a way the character I played in Belfast Blues probably could have been developed a wee bit more. Like, I was caught in between doing a couple of different things with it, and I think because I was like, doing most of the writing with it, Aaron kind of did nearly all the directing and I did a little bit, and then I did a good bit of the writing, and then we'd bounce it back. Well, it was a shared thing, but I would start the script and then send it back and forth. What I'm trying to say is I was doing a couple of different things, so I think the acting was the last thing that I thought about. So if I was doing it again, which I think we will, I would play that a bit differently. I did a character when Vine was like a big thing called Chase Someone, and it was like parodying these like Vine superstars, and that was years and years ago. That sketch never hit. I thought it was like a good parody of that kind of person, but I just don't really think it worked, or it maybe just wasn't well written. I did I don't know, I'm trying to think of older ones that just didn't hit the mark. Yeah, they're and also, even if a character like is established, like Mike McGoldrick or Keith Cruz, one of the there are still definitely like videos even now that I make of those characters. The odd one where I'm like, why did I not do that differently or whatever? But I don't really dwell on that stuff too long. But yeah, there's been like ideas for characters as well that just never really turned into anything. But the worst, I don't know, like Pizza Man Marty was always a fun character, and it kind of changed and evolved a wee bit. But the idea of that was just that he was just this massive loser, but had such confidence. And I think that was weirder. You know, I think as I've got older and like doing this longer, I think I enjoy like doing the odd really weird sketch too. But back at the time, I maybe thought if it wasn't like a kind of mainstream humour sketch, that it wasn't going to be good. So I should have just done a wee bit more of that. But I don't know, there definitely has been quite a few misses though, for sure. Daniel, I also did that influencer character, Corey Flames, which I'm planning to do more of, but I'll approach it kind of differently because the delivery was a bit shit the last time I did it, in terms of the way I presented it. So I'll do something as that. Daniel Houston says, would you rather spend the rest of your life with a sailboat as your home or an RV as your home? Oh, okay. So like a trailer. What's an RV? Like a camper van or a sailboat? I mean a camper van, I think, because people do that and it looks kind of cool. Like I know they do it more for like driving around Australia or something, or going on a road trip, but still it's more convenient to go and see friends. You know, if you're living in a sailboat and your mate's like, here, do you want to call over? You know, you have to ask questions that you don't normally ask, like, hey man, where can I dock? You know, there's Dave Elliott phoning me, and what pisses me off about that is Dave texted me and said, I've got gossip for you. And then I phoned him. I was like, okay, I'm just finishing Normal People, and then can I phone you back? And Dave goes, yeah, it's fine. And then when I phoned him back, he didn't answer. And that's one of the things I hate most in the world, when you keep missing someone on the phone. So the answer to the question is definitely Daniel on RV, I think. Katie Mack says, May McFetridge, would that be a dream guest? I think it would be interesting, definitely. John Linehan, who played, if you don't know who May McFetridge is, May McFetridge, you're a liar, but May McFetridge is like the panto dame of Belfast pantomime, and May is played by John Linehan, who is a really, really nice guy. I've done like one or two things. I met him once or twice. Complete gentleman, like real nice guy, and just a total pro as well. Like been doing that for like, I don't know, 30 years more, the character May McFetridge at the panto, and just has people absolutely creased in laughter every time. So yeah, probably be interesting to speak to John about that character, how he came up with May McFetridge, and I guess he was doing that through the Troubles. He would have been performing during the Troubles, and that's always interesting. So yeah, potentially at some point May McFetridge would be a dream guest. Oh no, she wouldn't. Chris Hens, because, you know, panto. Alright, sweet. Chris Hens says, coffee shops are the dominant place to get a caffeine fix. What happened to the tea room? Yeah, the tea room's just totally died out. The tea room used to be the shit, you know, back in like Victorian times. People be absolutely buzzing to head down to the tea room, but now it's all coffee. I think it probably is like an American thing, is it? You know, when Starbucks would have started, and like the idea of coffee shops and all that kind of thing, I think that didn't catch on in Belfast. Coffee shops have only really caught on in Belfast, and I'd say the last like 10 years, you know, in terms of going out for coffee, you know, or, you know, these places you get on the Ormo Road or whatever, where it's very, very coffee based, as opposed to places that were cafes that happen to sell coffee. But the tea room is going to come back thanks to this podcast. Like we've talked about having a tea party, about doing like a live episode, which we will do. Also, let me pick your brains as listeners about this. Producer Dan and I were chatting about doing a live podcast on Zoom. Is that, and the Patreons would get it for free, but you'd pay like just a couple of quid, like £3, to see that on like a Friday or Saturday night, interview some guests, maybe have a bit of live music on it, like a live podcast episode, take your questions. If that's something people will be interested in, let me know in the comments or fire me a DM, because we're talking about making that happen. Not hyper anymore says water slides or roller coasters. I mean, for me, it's always the water slide, I think. Although I do like roller coasters, sometimes you feel all sick when you come off them. But water slides are just always fun to me. Apart from the one time whenever I was in Turkey and I nearly died. I didn't nearly die, but like doesn't everybody say that when they're younger? Here, I nearly died there, and I was like, you didn't, just somebody punched you in the arm. But I was in Turkey whenever I was about 19, maybe a bit older. It's totally irrelevant. And it was like a Turkish water park, and it had been built by like your dad and his mate. You know what I mean? It was one of those kind of ones where like it wasn't passing any health and safety type things. And it was, like the 4 slides, and you can race each other, you and your mates, but they're really, really high, and like they just drop, and then it goes into a pool at the end. It was one of those, but I've never seen like steeper ones. And I went on one that was like tubing for about a quarter of the way, and then it just opened up into a slide. And I was racing against the people I was away on holiday with, and I pushed myself off as hard as I could. And I said push, by the way, not pulled. And I went off with so much force, I guess, because I'm so fucking freakishly strong and cute. But what happened was, my back lifted off the slide. I was going down with so much force. And when the wee tube bit opened out to a slide, I hit my forehead off the bottom, off like the tube in front of me, if that makes sense, at the bottom of it. And I came to when I hit the pool at the bottom. So I just went down. I went down at like record speed. It was just like dropping a potato out of a skyscraper. I must look like such a loser, like so vulnerable, just like totally out for the count. I looked like I'd fallen asleep. I looked like such an adrenaline junkie. I looked like I was like, this does nothing for me. And then it came to at the bottom. And then when it came to at the bottom, I was all panicked, and the lifeguard was blowing his whistle going, out, you need to get out, mate. Because that's the way Turkish people speak. He's like, mate, you need to get out, mate. Why does everyone on holiday in Turkey speak like that? Where is that? It's not a Turkish accent. Mate, you need to get out, mate. The people in the tub, mate, they're going to come down and knock you out, mate. And yeah, it went Peaky Blinders, but that's just the way those guys speak. Sorry for the truth bombs. But I had to pull at the bottom after being knocked out, and I did the noise when I hurt my neck this morning. I went, ah! And the guy's like, you need to get out. And I was like, you need to stop with the attitude, mister. And then he blew the whistle louder, and I shit myself and got out. But yeah, still, even after that experience, still definitely water slides. Belfast guy in China says, if you could give your new child only 3 pieces of advice for life, what would they be? Mine would be polite, be brave, and be the person you truly think you are. Also, I'd possibly advise, if you ever caught lying, just say, minty fresh, and hope people believe you. Yeah, shout out to that question, because if you remember last week on the podcast, I was talking to my mate Stevie about this guy we knew who was just a bullshitter. And I asked Stevie if I could phone him on the podcast to tell the story. Some people really enjoyed it, where there was a guy in his class who was a real liar, and he had a wee pen with a wee toothpaste bit of plastic on it, and he told everyone in the class that it was real toothpaste, and he smelt it and went, minty fresh, but everyone knew it wasn't a toothpaste. I'm saying to Stevie, can you do me those voice notes? Do those voice notes, mate. Because Stevie was like, I'll not come on the podcast, but what I will do is I'll leave you voice notes and you can play them on the podcast. Okay, hopefully he does it. Yeah, any advice I would give, and obviously I can't give it now because I'm not a dad yet, but my advice wouldn't be the person you truly think you are, because if I was the person I truly thought I was, I would just be this like 55-year-old drunk auntie. That's who I am deep down. Whenever I have a few glasses of red wine, and I'm like, thanks for inviting us over. I hate your house. That's me. So I can't be who I truly am. I have to really work hard to not be. But I think the rest of that's good. Be polite, be brave. I mean, being polite, yeah. Why does that need said to people? It really does. Like, You walk past someone when you're out for a walk and you make eye contact the whole time and you go, hello, and they go, no, you don't get to just give me the pursed lips. If I gave you the hello, you got to return it. So that really fucks me off. Being brave, yes, but like not, I think personally not too brave. Like what happens if some guy who looks like Johnny Adair says to you like, the fuck are you looking at when you're just walking down the street? Don't be brave in that situation. Don't be like you bald bastard, because then you just get beat up. So I don't know. Belfast guy in China, I'm going to let you know down the line. China, okay, fake news. China started the virus, okay. I feel like that'll come up in listeners' questions, Trump. But yeah, I don't know yet, but let me come back to you on it. Thanks for the question. My next question comes from Emmett, who says, interest in your tea making methodology. Personally, I boil the kettle, transfer it to the teapot, 2 Lions tea bags, teapot on the stove for at least 5 minutes, transfer to a large mug, then put the milk in. It's important to make a full pot, even if you're only making tea for yourself. Always the option of more cups of tea. Different strokes for different folks. I like it. I like the dedication. I like the teapots come into it. But here's what I don't understand. If the water has just boiled, why do people put it on the stove if they're just going to then have tea straight away? You know what I mean? Like, surely put the tea bags in the teapot, pour the tea, and then maybe put it on the stove for second, third cups of tea. I don't know why the stove comes into it too early. Maybe you can explain that to me. But yeah, you guys know by now. I boil the kettle. I put the tea bag in the cup. I leave it just about 30 seconds. I pour the hot water in. Dip it maybe 15 times. Push against the side. Tea bag in the bin. Don't put it in the sink because you're going to have to put it in the bin later. And then I put my almond milk in. Nice stir. I take it pretty strong. And that's it. I thought there was more of on Instagram, but there isn't, and I'm okay with that. I seem really upset about that, but I'm okay. There's plenty of questions, and there was no need for me to really react with such sadness there. Ben McKenna says, "What are you at? Just doing a podcast, mate. Yeah, just chilling, doing the old pod." Thomas McCann says, "Can you talk about this guy?"
They're losing their lives everywhere in the world, and maybe that's a question you should ask China.
China.
Don't ask me. Ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Yeah, Big Don was Donnie Trump was doing a press conference. A reporter asked him, an Asian American reporter asked him, you know, what about, is it like a point system, this testing? And she asked a question. He didn't answer properly. He's just like, you need to ask China why they created this, basically. And she then was like, why are you asking me to ask China, mate? You know, because she's Asian American. You know, she could conceivably have been Chinese. And she just kept asking him, and he's just like, he just does what he does, which he's like, no, moving on, okay, thank you. And she just kept asking. I think he didn't answer her question and just moved on, which was rude. But she was like, why are you asking me to ask China? Huh? What is it about me that you're at? Why would you ask me to ask China? I think he probably would have said that to anyone, which doesn't make it right. But like, I don't know. It's nuts. See if you can dig it out. I think I've said this before, and I think we're getting this guy on the podcast. There's a stand-up called Shane Gillis, who is, I don't know if he's from New York, but he's on the New York comedy scene. He does brilliant stand-up about Trump and just about his tactics of like, no, you know, no one thinks to do that at that level. At like being the president, people think, oh, you have to just be really polite and you have to, and he's just like, no, you're a loser, thank you, China, you know, that kind of thing. So Trump, I don't know, I can't say I know a lot about Trump, but like, it just seems like politics there is a total mess. And guys, Stevie's left me a voice note. I asked him to tell me this story, and here it is.
So, the guy that you want the stories about, He went to our primary school and he was well known for a tall tale. And the one that you always laugh at is the one where he must have got a pen that was from like a dentist or something, and it had on the clip that you would clip it onto a jacket pocket or something was a little plastic tub of toothpaste. But he broke this clip off, and he would walk around our classroom with this little plastic toothpaste, and he would put it up to his mouth, and almost like it was a drug, would go, "Oh, it's good." And he told us all that his dad had shipped him in 10,000 of these mini toothpastes from Thailand. Nobody knew why. And he was the same fella that got into a scrap in the middle of the classroom, and there was me and a couple of other guys who were kind of around it, and the teacher marched the whole group down to the principal's office. She wanted, obviously, the witnesses to this fella starting the fight, and I always remember us walking down the corridor like it was a Scorsese movie in slow motion, and him in the middle of this group of lads with us around him, and him saying, "You know what you seen, just tell the truth." And this was actually the same guy who at one point had a pair of the Nike Air trainers with the massive bubble in the back. And I remember him coming into class one day, and through the course of the day he stabbed a pencil into the bubble on the shoe and sort of pushed it right the way through the bubble so that there was essentially a pencil sticking out either side, and told everybody that the reason that he had done it was because his dad had been working for Nike, but didn't tell anybody, because he was the guy that came up with all the shoes, but he had recently just moved to Adidas, so he hated Nike now. And they were some sort of special shoes that Nike would have been raging with him for destroying. So yeah, all legit stories.
His dad was a pilot that worked for Nike. That is, I don't know why bullshitting in primary school was just the number one thing that I enjoyed with hindsight. Oh my god, that is, you don't know how funny that is to me. If that is funny to even a dozen people listening, you're welcome. Terry Charlton, Stevie also says he can get me the toothpastes. Terry Charlton says, well, can you have a listen to the Four Idle podcast, episode 8? You're in it, thanks. Terry, thanks for having me on. Terry is based in, I think, Aberdeen, and he's done a podcast, and he had me on as a guest, and we chatted just about comedy and that kind of thing. I won't listen to my own episode, but I will listen to another episode because, I talk a lot, and I don't like listening to myself back. I only like looking at pictures of myself. Darren Matthews says, talk about All or Nothing, the latest series, the Philadelphia Eagles. I actually don't know what All or Nothing is. If it sounds like it could be a game show with Frank Mitchell, where you either win everything or Frank's catchphrase, or you go home with fuck all. Is it a West End musical that they're streaming for charity? Darren, I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what it is. I don't really know what it is, man. But it is something, and that is to be cherished. Leverkusen says, what's it like being the best NI comedian? And talk about Into the Night on Netflix. Hey man, the tenner's in the post. What's it like being NI's best comedian? Look, come on, it's pretty sweet. Well, I just left it at that. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I mean, the reality is, I think Northern Ireland's best comedian is, let me see. I actually think Northern Ireland's best comedian is Tim McGarry. All things considered, if there was a comedy night where everybody was doing like a 10-minute set, and it was all comedians here of all ages, I think Tim probably packs in the most punchlines, has a great style. You're watching him as well, being like, I'm already in a way laughing because I know him from Give My Headpiece, and his character was fucking hilarious on that. Tim probably. But there's so many comedians I like, and obviously comedy is very subjective. But, you know, Michael knows what he's talking about. I tell you what, I don't think anybody would be a good comedian right now, because we're all rusty, apart from the people that are performing at home into the mirror and stuff, which is weird. Although we all have a process, you know, whatever works for you, but it's weird, I think. But good luck. I probably should do it. Jamie Douglas says, Copper Mug. I don't know what Into the Night is, by the way, on Netflix. Jamie Douglas says, Copper Mug. Dead to Me is a good series on Netflix. Watch the first series. Don't know about the second. Got a lot to watch. We'll see what happens. Christina Applegate. Let's see what happens. China. Okay. Copper mug for sure. Mark Moorhead says, long thin mug or short wide mug for your tea? Oh, you dirty bastard. Dirty bastard. That's dying out, isn't it, that phrase? Oh, why? Dirty bastard. Short wide mug, I think. Short wide mug. Stevie just messaged me. Forgot to say, when we were walking to the principal's office, the fellow was barefoot. He'd taken his shoes off for the fight. You know, he's observing like a Muay Thai style. I like that. Or Muay Thai, is Muay Thai a fighting style or a cocktail? I don't know. I enjoy both. Connor Reddick, with your first child on the way, what sort of parent do you think you'll be? I don't know. You don't know until it happens, I think, from other people. I don't know. Here's the thing. I say we're at like a party and there's kids running about, there's like an adults table. I'm probably more comfortable at the kids table. Like, that's my level. I'll get into arguments with the kids very quickly, like, shut up and all, you know, that kind of thing. So I think I can chat the kids well. Someone Matthew Mernon will send that to Dave as well, the isolated clip of me saying I can chat the kids. I don't know. I think I want to be firm but fair, but I think I'll end up just being fair. You know, I can see me being a bit of a pushover. Daddy, can we get ice cream? No. Daddy, but please? Yeah, okay. Let's get 10 litres of Pooh Bear for this guy. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Hopefully I'm good, but then again, who knows? I think though I'll be good at it, but it's a bit of trial and tribulation, I guess. Inca says, Money Heist, if you haven't already watched it. I think I talked about Money Heist, did I? In last week's episode. So I'll keep it brief. I enjoy it. A lot. Although we're watching the second series at the minute, I think I prefer the first. But that's the way a load of TV is. You know, you can't just have every series being the best series. And I love the first so much that if I just saw the second as just the second series, I would enjoy it. But I think I prefer the first. But Money Heist is good. Chris Bailey says, how much Lego can you fit up your bum? What a fucking stupid, immature thing to say. That's how we're going to end the questions. How much Lego can I fit up my bum? How would I fucking even... The Death Star. The Star Wars collab. The Death Star. 4 of them. So, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Hope you enjoyed the interview with the two Niles. I have a guest coming on the Friday episode of this week's podcast. TBC. Let's see what happens there. I've put a few feelers out. Let's see what comes back. Thank you very much for listening and watching. If you want to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, that'll be sweet. If you want to leave a rate and review, that would be unreal. Really, really appreciate that. That helps us in those old Apple charts. And if you want to get in touch with us for any reason, teawithmepodcast@gmail.com. On the Patreon episodes, we've had Todd Barry, brilliant American comedian. We've had Kieran Bartlett doing 2 episodes. And I'll probably get Kieran on actually for a chat in the next week or 2 as well. Get him back on because he's a regular here and people really enjoy those episodes. No one more so than me. So those episodes are great fun. They come out every Monday. Patreon.com/teawithmepodcast if you want to support the podcast. Other than that, guys, Keep sipping your tea. Stay safe. Hope everybody's well. Good night. Good luck. Take care. Be good. Be alert. Bye-bye. Be anything you want to be. Be the best. Be George Best. Be Pele. Be Romario. Ronaldo. Rivaldo. Ronaldinho. All those boys. Take it easy. Sip, sip. All the best.